A harsh sun beats down on a desolate, rocky landscape. Suddenly, a monstrous hydra looms over a group of terrified warriors. The soldiers stand their ground, preparing to face the impossible threat. In the ensuing chaos, one man carves a bloody path through his enemies. His face is splattered with blood, but his eyes remain cold and focused. He brings his sword down, delivering a brutal and decisive final blow. A dark, intense aura surrounds him as he glares at the remaining foes. The horrified soldiers can only call him a monstrous bastard, but the relentless battle has taken its toll, leaving him wounded and hunched over. Seeing their chance, the enemy horde charges, screaming for his death. He feels his heart pounding on the very brink of giving out. Every ragged breath he takes feels like a knife scraping his throat. He can no longer tell the difference between the blood and sweat on his skin. All his senses are screaming that this life-or-death struggle is real. At his lowest point, a series of hidden traits suddenly activate. Yet the enemy swarms him, determined to kill the worn-out warrior. He lets out a final roar, accepting that this brutal fight is his reality. The scene abruptly shifts to instant noodles and soda cans on a desk. A lone figure is seen sitting in a gaming chair, staring at a monitor. On the screen, the words "Game Over" flash above a defeated character. He leans back in his chair, screaming in frustration at the screen. His entire life revolves around this desk and his messy, dark room. After quitting his job months ago, he just stares out the window. He became a shut-in, living and breathing only for the game. This addiction has consumed him for the last 5 years. His life has become a legendary failure, all for a single game. The game is called Pangenia, a fantasy world that once held promise. It promised to grant one wish to whoever cleared it, but no one ever has. Pangenia was infamous for its brutal, unforgiving difficulty. Players faced impossible bosses that could wipe out entire parties. Even companions couldn't be trusted, often betraying you in an instant. Getting a bounty meant being hunted down relentlessly by powerful NPCs. But the worst feature was permadeath. One death meant losing everything. Because of its insane difficulty, the game's popularity vanished overnight. He begins to suspect the game is designed to be impossible to clear. All his progress, including 8 unique items, vanished in a single moment. But as he stares at the screen, he notices something unexpected. His character is deleted, but he's awarded 1.6 million soul points. He's stunned by the massive amount, far more than all his past deaths combined. The game has a system that rewards players with SP based on their dead character's value. These soul points can be invested into talents when creating a new character. He remembers a past character, a grandmaster of swordsmanship who still died. With 1.6 million SP, he realizes he can invest in everything. Normally, he'd play it safe with a magic build for a stable run. But this time, he decides to go for something completely random. Convinced he'll never clear it, he decides to just have fun one last time. A painful memory surfaces, a woman apologizing to him. He remembers his confusion, not understanding what she meant. She bluntly told him she couldn't date someone with no future. She was at the age where marriage was on her mind. All her friends were with successful men from big companies. And then there was him, a stark contrast to them all. He could only look down, crushed by her words. With a sigh, she decided the conversation was over and stood to leave. Her final words, "I hope you have a nice life," echoed in his mind. And just like that, she walked out of the cafe in his life. That was 3 months ago, the day his 5-year relationship ended. Heartbroken and angry, he quit his dead-end job. He locked himself in his room, escaping into the world of Pangenia. But now, staring at the screen, he tells himself the patheticness ends today. With a final, defiant click, he commits to the random character build. Soul points drain rapidly as the system reconfigures his stats in a flash of light. Suddenly, an unexpected message appears. A hidden piece has been activated. He's stunned by an invitation to Pangenia for satisfying a singularity. His world distorts as he's violently pulled through the screen into the game. An enraged voice screams a curse against a wicked god echoing in his mind. He collapses, clutching his head as the unfamiliar voice causes him immense pain. Gritting his teeth, he struggles to understand what's happening to him. He realizes with horror that the powerful, angry voice is inside his own head. Overwhelmed, he falls to the floor of his messy room, losing consciousness. As he lies passed out, his computer monitor glows with an eerie red light. A cryptic message appears, addressing a being of creation and destruction. The final words on the screen wish him happiness in the world of Pangenia. He awakens to a sharp pain as a taskmaster whips him, calling him a useless slave. The brute threatens to feed him to the Hydreigon if he falters again. His eyes widen in shock and disbelief at the mention of that familiar name. A colossal, scaly foot slams into the ground right next to him. He sees countless other slaves being driven forward under the lash. Utterly bewildered, he stares around, trying to grasp his new, terrifying reality. He finally sees them, the monstrous Hydreigons, just like in the game. The taskmaster screams at him to get back in formation, lashing out with his whip. He falls to his knees as the brute threatens him with death for his defiance. The searing pain makes him realize this isn't a dream. His new reality is harsh. He confirms the Hydreigons are identical to the monsters from Pangea. Even the desolate canyon around him feels eerily familiar from his time in the game. Testing a wild theory, he mentally summons his status window. A glowing blue interface appears before him, invisible to the other slaves. His eyes widen in disbelief as the impossible truth begins to sink in. The window displays a dizzying array of stats, talents, and hidden traits. It's undeniable, he's no longer in his room but has truly entered Pangea. He stares in shock, realizing the game's system is now a part of his world. He questions why all his stats are at 12, far exceeding the normal starting range. More impossibly, he discovers he possesses 13 active hidden traits. Overwhelmed by his seemingly broken character, he tries to process what's happening. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake violently beneath everyone's feet. An enemy army appears, led by the fearsome Desert Queen, breaking a truce. A powerful woman with red-streaked hair stands atop a Hydreigon, commanding the attack. He recognizes her as the Snake Princess, a notorious figure from the game. As chaos erupts, a new system message flashes before his eyes. A main quest has begun. His face pales as he reads the quest's single terrifying objective: survive. A storm of arrows suddenly darkens the sky, raining down on the battlefield. The volley tears through the ranks of slaves who scream in agony as they fall. Amidst the chaos, he stands untouched, watching the slaughter unfold. His eyes widen in horror, the brutal reality of his situation finally hitting him. Suddenly, a new trait activates: Heart of the Iron-Blooded Monarch. This power prevents exhaustion and keeps him from being caught off guard. It also allows him to rapidly assess the battlefield, even as bodies pile up. He knows that to stay still is to die. He must fight to survive. Without hesitation, he lunges for a sword lying next to a fallen soldier. His hand closes around the hilt, and the blade begins to glow with power. A brilliant teal aura explodes around him as he prepares for his first real fight. An enemy warrior immediately charges, swinging a scimitar at his head. He effortlessly parries the blow, sending his attacker reeling backward. With a single fluid motion, he cuts the man down. Now glowing with power, his eyes burn with a new, dangerous intensity. Another hidden trait activates, revealing him as a weapon master. Enraged, the taskmaster roars and charges, aiming to crush the defiant slave. He easily sidesteps the brute's clumsy attack, letting the weapon slam into the dirt. In a flash, he disarms the taskmaster, sending the man's spear flying. Catching the weapon, he's shocked by how natural it feels in his hands. He realizes he can wield any weapon like a seasoned expert. Another enemy lunges forward, swinging his axe with brutal force. But the protagonist moves with an unnatural grace, dodging the attack. He grits his teeth as another power begins to awaken within him. As he blocks another blow, his senses heighten to a new level. A strange blue energy flows through him, sharpening his perception. His eyes glow as he can now perfectly predict his enemy's every move. He easily ducks under a sword swing, seeing its path before it's even thrown. With perfect timing, he drives his blade straight through his opponent's chest. He then snatches an axe from a fallen foe, his arsenal growing. The last attacker watches in terror as the axe comes swinging down. The man's desperate plea is cut short by a final brutal strike. Now armed with 2 weapons, he stands panting amidst the carnage. The remaining soldiers stare in disbelief, calling him an absolute monster. A new trait, Masterful Hands, rapidly boosts his weapon proficiency to level 6. He understands that at this level, he can fight like a legendary knight. But he knows this miraculous power won't be enough to last forever. He faces an army of 500 soldiers, realizing his survival quest is impossible. The scene suddenly cuts to a dark throne room where a red-haired woman is held captive. A mysterious queen on the throne coldly remarks on the failure of an expedition to the demon world. The queen's glowing red eye pierces the darkness as she questions the Snake Princess. With a somber expression, the captive woman confirms the queen's suspicions. The queen explains that if their non-participation is discovered, their city will be blamed for the failure. She orders the Snake Princess to the Kaltzman Desert to eliminate every last survivor. Their mission is to erase all evidence connecting them to the disastrous expedition. As motivation, the Queen promises to lift the princess's curse upon her success. The Snake Princess grits her teeth and reluctantly accepts the grim task. From her throne, the Queen issues a final, chilling command: "You cannot fail." The scene returns to the desert, where the Snake Princess now oversees the aftermath. She asks a subordinate kneeling before her if the slaughter is complete. The soldier nervously reports that a single slave is somehow still alive. Her eyes widen in disbelief at the news of one lone survivor. On the battlefield, the protagonist stands exhausted over a pile of bodies, the last man standing. Suddenly, a system window announces he has reached level 2. His health, mana, and stamina are instantly restored, and he stands renewed and ready. He glares at the remaining soldiers, telling them to get out of his way. The soldiers look up in awe as the Snake Princess arrives on her colossal mount. He looks up, recognizing the infamous NPC, thinking she's finally arrived. Her full name is revealed in a dramatic shot: Isabella von Dersian. A status window appears, showing she's a level 8 powerhouse cursed by the Queen. He realizes he's facing a level 8 opponent, a fight he can't possibly win. In Pangania, the power gap from level 7 onward is nearly insurmountable. A level 8 is on par with the final boss of a major organization. He knows that confronting her now is nothing short of a disaster. The Snake Princess steps forward, ready to end the lone survivor's life. She looks down on him, admitting his little show was interesting. But with a chilling aura, she declares that he has to die now. He reflects on why he was so obsessed with the brutally difficult game. It was because he loved finding ways to conquer the impossible. He smirks, remembering his reputation as a master of hard games. Isabella lunges forward, a blur of motion aimed to kill. She brings her blade down in a devastating high-speed strike. But he calmly asks if she wants to lift the Queen's curse. He effortlessly stops her blade with his bare hand, a strange power glowing. Her eyes widen in fury and disbelief as her attack is completely nullified. Stunned, she can only stare at the man who stopped her strongest blow. She grits her teeth and demands to know who he really is. He calmly explains that he reads the stars and guides others to them. Introducing himself as the Star-Bearer, he offers to break her curse. Isabella is left utterly speechless, her mind reeling from his impossible claim. He inwardly celebrates as his risky bluff pays off. He reveals the Star-Bearer is an NPC class needed to transcend the max level. To break her curse, she needs the blessing of stars, something only a Star-Bearer can grant. Isabella trembles, forced to listen if she ever wants to be free. He was certain she'd cooperate for one very specific reason. In a shocking twist, he reveals Isabella is a character that he himself created. The Queen's curse was just a game mechanic to trap players in the starting zone. But a player's character is meant to be free, to travel the world and see the ending. Instead, he had left this character trapped in a cage bound by the curse. Breaking the silence, Isabella finally asks for his name. He confidently introduces himself as Randolph, and a system window confirms it. Isabella turns away, agreeing to postpone his execution for now. But she walks off with a stern warning over her shoulder. If he's lying, she promises to personally rip him into pieces. She orders her soldiers to escort him as an honored guest, completing his survival quest. The system calculates his results, calling his performance a record-breaking miracle. His rewards are upgraded twice, granting him 3 powerful new items. The tension finally breaks and he collapses to the ground, realizing he survived. His score is so high that his result is added to the main quest, Hall of Fame. The scene shifts to a moonlit castle, his new destination as an honored guest. Now in a luxurious bath, he begins to review his incredible quest rewards. He marvels at receiving 2 legendary items, the Soul of the Hydreigon and the Sword of Mikola. But the third item, a broken piece of the golden scale, confuses him with its strange ability to synchronize reality and Pangania. Suddenly the doors burst open and 3 beautiful women enter, leaving him completely stunned. The chambermaids smile and offer to wash him, holding out towels. He cautiously agrees to let them wash his feet, realizing this is a test from Isabella. As one of the women begins to gently scrub his foot, he tries to remain composed. He knows they are Isabella's spies and any reaction will expose his bluff. To maintain his Star-Bearer persona, he forces himself to stay calm and show no desire. While washing him, one of the chambermaids suddenly lets out a gasp of shock. She accidentally activated his status window, which has appeared right in front of her. The window reveals a shocking leaderboard and a warning that the boundary between Pangenia and reality is shattering. Having seen his title, the confused chambermaid asks him what a star-bearer is. He stares in disbelief, not at her question, but at the names he saw on the leaderboard. He recognizes two of the names as old friends who disappeared from the game years ago. His eyes widen as another, even more shocking realization dawns on him. A system message announces that by ranking in the survival quest, he has unlocked the logout feature. With fierce determination, he realizes he can finally leave this damned game. He orders the confused chambermaids to leave, claiming it's time for him to communicate with the stars. He warns them that if he doesn't, he'll lose his power, daring them to ask the princess if she'd risk that. The chambermaids retreat, wishing him a comfortable time communicating with the stars. Alone in the bath, he breathes a sigh of relief that his shabby excuse actually worked. He steps out of the water, admitting he was terrified of being stuck in the game forever. With a determined look, he reaches for the glowing blue logout button to escape. A system message warns that if his character dies, he dies in real life before the logout completes. He awakens not to his room, but to a view of his city engulfed in fire and chaos. People scream and flee in terror as monstrous silhouettes rampage through the burning streets. A giant insect-like creature with glowing red eyes emerges from the inferno. Back in his real body, he stares out his window in utter shock and disbelief. Suddenly, a different monster with a reptilian head and glowing eyes appears right outside his window. The creature lets out a terrifying screech, its mouth splitting open like a grotesque flower. He recoils in terror, falling backward onto his bed to escape the horrifying sight. His mind races as he questions why monsters from Pangenia have invaded the real world. As he scrambles back, a small golden object falls from his pocket onto the bed. It's the broken piece of the golden scale, the item that synchronizes the two worlds. Disoriented, he sits up in his gaming chair, trying to make sense of his surroundings. He looks at his familiar messy room, wondering if he just fell asleep and dreamt everything. He tries to dismiss it all, convinced that entering a game world is just a fantasy. But his eyes land on his desk, spotting items from the game sitting next to his keyboard. He picks up the golden scale, his face filled with horror as he realizes it was all real. He frantically searches for his phone, desperate to check the game's status. His eyes widen in shock as he realizes the Pangania homepage has completely vanished. His thoughts are shattered by terrified screams echoing from the streets below. Peeking out his window, he sees a monstrous insect creature rampaging through the burning city. A news report confirms the nightmare. Unidentified monsters are attacking and police are powerless. A desperate idea forms as he stares at the golden scale on his bed. If monsters are real, he realizes, then maybe the items from the game can be used too. He grabs the items and a holographic display of his legendary rewards appears before him. He clutches the Hydreigon's soul, frustrated that a simple double click won't work in reality. Suddenly, a system window for the golden scale appears, explaining its synchronization power. He knows his current body is useless, but the scale offers a chance to change that. He activates the item, and a brilliant light engulfs him as his body synchronizes with his game character, Randolph. A system notification confirms the synchronization is active for the next 24 hours. The scene cuts to the war-torn streets, littered with the bodies of the fallen. A mother desperately flees the chaos, clutching her young daughter tightly. The little girl asks for her father, but her mother can only urge her to keep running. Their escape is cut short as a nearby building collapses, sending debris raining down. The mother is crushed by the falling rubble, and the little girl is thrown to the ground. Mortally wounded, the mother uses her last breath to tell her daughter to run. A woman in a torn business suit rushes toward the crying child, asking if she's okay. The dying mother begs the woman to save her child with her last breath. Overcome with grief, the woman promises the fallen mother she'll protect her daughter. But a flower-mouthed monster lunges, ready to devour them both. The woman braces for impact, believing this is the end for her and the child. In a blur of motion, a mysterious figure swoops in and pulls them to safety. It's the protagonist, who effortlessly cleaves the monster in two with a glowing blade. The woman clutches the child, stunned and relieved that she somehow survived. She stares at her savior's back, wondering who this powerful man could be. Another insectoid beast charges, aiming to crush the small group of survivors. The woman screams a desperate warning for him to watch out. He's swatted aside by the creature's massive leg, sent flying through the air. As he falls, the woman watches in awe as a colossal shadow forms behind him. From the soul item, a monstrous 9-headed Hydreigon is summoned to the battlefield. The protagonist lands atop one of its heads, calmly telling the beast to stay still. The woman stares in utter disbelief, questioning if what she's seeing is even real. The little girl breaks free, running toward her mother's body in tears. The Hydra gun unleashes its fury, decimating the swarms of insect monsters. A montage reveals this is a global invasion, with monsters destroying cities worldwide. However, powerful warriors have also appeared, fighting back against the apocalypse. One hero raises his glowing sword, vowing to protect the innocent from the new world of monsters. As the world changes, a man scoffs at a news report of heroes uniting. In a lavish apartment, he calls them idiots for wasting their golden scale fragments. This player, known as Massacre, confirms that Pangea and reality are merging. He clenches his fist, knowing a new age of chaos has begun where only the strong will rule. His attention turns to the survival quest rankings, where Randolph holds first place. He stares at the name, wondering if this Randolph is the legendary player Phantom. A flashback reveals Phantom, the first player to lead an expedition to the Demon Realm. Though he was the undisputed #1 player, his quest ended in a brutal failure. Massacre realizes Phantom must have been reborn as Randolph, retaining all his talents. He grins, finally understanding how Randolph achieved such an impossibly high score. Meanwhile, Randolph reflects in the bath, realizing players now inhabit their game characters. He closes his eyes as the full picture of his new reality becomes terrifyingly clear. He recalls his past life as Phantom, who came so close to beating the game. But his expedition was sabotaged by hired mercenaries and betrayed by his own companions. A shocking thought hits him. What if those NPCs were actually other summoned players? He stands, realizing the rivals who targeted him before are likely still his enemies now. With the boundary between worlds gone, he knows he can't just hide after logging out. To ensure his safety, he decides he must grow stronger, and quickly. He confidently strides into the throne room, where Isabella asks if he's done with the stars. He declares he's here to keep his promise, and she responds with a satisfied smile. But Randolph stops her, saying he has one condition. He demands that she take him to the sanctuary, leaving her stunned. She calls him insane, but he reveals his next quest is to obtain a class. With a confident smirk, he explains the class he wants is in the sanctuary. Isabella questions if the star he needs is truly there, and he confirms it's hidden. He knows its exact location from his time as his previous character, Phantom. She protests that no one can enter, but he reminds her that she has access. He reflects on his successful gamble, knowing his head would be rolling if she'd refused. After a journey, Isabella leads him into a dark cavern, announcing they've arrived. He stares down a foreboding staircase into the purple haze of the holy ground. System windows warn him that he's underleveled, and the area is full of poison. But his hidden trait, Giant's Demon Resistance, activates, protecting him from the toxic energy. He knows a normal level 2 player couldn't survive here, considering his options, but he dismisses the subquest, stepping forward with a greater purpose in mind. This is where he can complete his main quest and finally obtain a class. He grins, knowing he's about to acquire a very specific and powerful class. Isabella leads the way with a knowing smile, seemingly testing him. She suddenly stops him, pointing out he's taken the wrong path for a starbearer. She reveals the bridge ahead is a trap with powerful air currents. Turning to mock him, she's met with a smug grin as he asks if she's scared. Her eyes widen in shock, completely caught off guard by his accusation. She angrily denies it, claiming the Snake Princess knows no fear, but he just calls her timid. She fakes a leg cramp to avoid the bridge, but he simply offers to carry her on his back. Enraged by his audacity, she asks if he has a death wish, but he calmly reminds her of her cramp. He explains they're out of time and will be hunted, making it faster for him to carry her. Grumbling about her fake injury, she reluctantly climbs onto his back. He tells her to hold on tight and plants his foot, ready to make a move. He suddenly sprints forward and she screams that he's going the wrong way. Without warning, he leaps off the cliff into the abyss, much to her horror. A system window appears as his eye glows, activating his hidden trait. Mutant. This power allows him to see all secrets, revealing a hidden glowing path before them. He lands safely on the invisible bridge, calmly telling her this is the real path. Isabella is stunned, questioning how he knows this path and is unaffected by the sanctuary's poison. He teases her about having a fear of heights, and she angrily tells him to shut up. As he complains she's heavy, she realizes his confidence isn't just about being strong. She feels like he's not just navigating a dungeon, but returning to a familiar place. Leaning in close, she finally asks him if they have met before. He gives a cryptic answer as they run up a glowing staircase, leaving her confused. His hand begins to glow as he explains that he has seen her before. He finishes his sentence with a powerful flash. But you have never seen me. They finally arrive at a beautiful sunlit meadow at the end of the hidden path. He explains this is a domain barrier, and he knows exactly what lies ahead. Suddenly, a single glowing red eye pierces the darkness before them. From the ground, an army of monstrous stone golems begins to rise. The guardian's chest glows with a powerful, fiery rune, signaling its immense strength. He realizes this is an upper-tier golem, and even a graze would mean instant death for him. He smirks at Isabella, who tells him to shut up and watch what she can do. The stone guardians charge forward, their massive fists ready to crush the intruders. Isabella stands her ground as a golem brings its colossal fist down upon her. With blinding speed, she unleashes a powerful attack that slices through the golem's arm. The stone arm shatters into countless pieces from the force of her strike. She calmly declares that this fight will be over in an instant. With incredible agility, she leaps through the air, dodging the falling debris. She gracefully lands on another golem, running up its body to strike the core. Randolph watches with a smug grin, impressed by the character he himself created. Glowing cracks spread across the golem's body as her attack finds its mark. In a final, explosive move, she demonstrates the overwhelming power of a level 8 player. As the golems crumble, a system window suddenly appears before Randolph. It offers him the Golem Maker class, recognizing Isabella's kill as his own. He considers the offer, knowing Golem Maker is a rare and high-tier summoner class, but he instantly declines the offer, stating it's not the class he wants. He knows the being who can grant his true class is something else entirely. A system window describes an ancient king buried by a nameless star. Randolph looks up into the sky, confidently saying it has finally shown itself. A colossal serpent with glowing eyes appears, identified as the ancient king Dramit. He feels the overwhelming pressure, questioning if this is the sanctuary's guardian. The massive beast towers over them, its sheer size blocking out the sky. Randolph smirks at Isabella, telling her not to worry because the guardian is actually gentle. Before he can finish, the serpent lunges forward in a devastatingly fast attack. The blow slams directly into Isabella, sending her flying across the battlefield. She skids to a halt, using her daggers to brace herself against the immense force. He insists the creature is friendly, but Isabella angrily asks if it looks friendly to him. Dramut challenges the challenger to prove their qualification, but Isabella panics, saying it's not her. The serpent accuses her of defeating its sentinels, leaving her utterly flustered. With a final warning, Dramut attacks again, and Isabella screams that it has the wrong person. She desperately asks Randolph for help, but he's confused, realizing he never fought Dramut before. His eyes widen as he wonders if the game's history has somehow changed. A lore window explains Dramut is a guardian protecting a greater god with its massive body. It reveals the serpent gained its power and wisdom from the spiritual energy of a star. A flashback shows his previous character, a level 10 transcendent who cleared this place long ago. He recalls that as Wilhelm, Dramut was obedient because he was qualified. Now he realizes the serpent attacks anyone weaker than it, and he's only level 2. Meanwhile, Isabella is sent flying by another one of the serpent's powerful blows. She crashes to the ground, gritting her teeth in pain from the brutal impact. Isabella struggles to move, cursing the sanctuary's poison for weakening her body. Lying defeated, she wonders if trusting the so-called Star-Bearer was a fatal mistake. Randolph steps forward, commanding the colossal serpent to stop its assault. Dramut's tail whips around, swatting Isabella away like an insignificant fly. The serpent's glowing red eye narrows, focusing solely on the man before it. It demands to know how a weak human could possibly know its true name. With a confident smirk, Randolph declares that its master, Wilhelm, has returned. The massive serpent leans in, questioning if he is truly the legendary Wilhelm. Dramut lets out a furious roar, its massive jaws wide with disbelief. It scolds him for being weaker than a golem and unprepared to receive the star. The serpent explains that Wilhelm was a perfect transcendent, worthy of being its master. But Wilhelm failed his expedition to the demon realm and met a complete death. Dramut roars that a lowly creature like him has no right to speak its master's name. Randolph stands his ground, calmly telling the serpent to honor their contract. The beast freezes, shocked that he knows about the secret pact it made with Wilhelm. A flashback reveals the contract. Whoever obtains the hidden star becomes Dramut's new master. A flashback reveals the contract's final deadly clause, revealing it means death. Randolph smirks, realizing his new body is immune to the contract's curse. The colossal serpent leans in close, demanding to know the identity of this strange creature. He confidently tells the beast to guide him, letting the star itself prove his worth. Dramet warns that the unqualified will be incinerated the moment they approach the star. Randolph taunts the serpent, asking if it's afraid the star will reveal him as its true master. The beast scoffs at his arrogance, seeing him as nothing more than a weakling. Intrigued, Dramoot agrees to lead him, still doubting he is the legendary Wilhelm. The serpent declares it would rather see the star destroy him than accept a false master. Isabella can only stare in stunned silence as the impossible scene unfolds before her. Dramoot guides them down a dark passage, finally revealing the location of the star. Randolph confirms that the object resting on the altar ahead is what they seek. On the altar sits a cracked human skull, resting inside a glowing six-pointed star. He corrects Isabella, revealing the skull is not just a star but the face of a goddess named Leah. A flashback explains that when the goddess Leah died, her body shattered into 32 stars. Randolph holds the skull, explaining these fragments are used by players to achieve transcendence. But as he touches it, the skull erupts in a violent explosion of fiery energy. He recoils in shock, completely unprepared for the star's hostile reaction. Dramet mocks him from the shadows, declaring the star has rejected him and he will burn. Enveloped in flames, Randolph glares at the glowing skull with pure frustration. He realizes the star only kills players who cheat their way past Dramet. He recalls a theory that a classless player who acquires a star will be granted its power. The glowing skull cracks violently, unleashing an energy labeled void. All 13 of his hidden traits appear around him, resonating with the star's power. A mysterious voice addresses him as he's engulfed in a brilliant, transformative light. System messages confirm his mana has become star energy, granting him new skills and a massive stat boost. A final notification announces he has acquired the legendary class Star Successor. Isabella stares in wide-eyed disbelief, unable to comprehend that he absorbed the star. He turns to her, calmly asking what she plans to do once her curse is lifted. She answers that she wants to leave the desert and find her family's lost bloodline. He offers to free her on one condition: she must serve him for 1 year. A flashback shows her past servitude to the deceitful queen. He looks down at her, promising that unlike the queen, he does not lie. With newfound resolve, Isabella kneels before him and pledges her loyalty. He looks on with a satisfied smirk, telling her she's made a good decision. Randolph then turns to the colossal serpent, reminding it of their contract. Dramoot nervously stammers its agreement, now completely subservient. With a menacing glare, he points at the beast and commands it to bow its head. The serpent's massive eye widens in pure terror at its new master's command. The scene cuts to the queen's throne room, where a subordinate reports on Isabella's actions. The enraged queen orders her guards to seize the two of them immediately. The scene abruptly shifts to a bright sunny day in a modern city street. We focus on the front of a cafe named Angelus Coffee. Inside, 2 men and a woman debate if Randolph is the legendary player Phantom. One man is convinced the 5-year ghost player has finally appeared and they must contact him. The woman scoffs, asking how they'll find him when years of searching have failed. Her companion explains that now Phantom is a real player. They can try fishing for him in the auction hall. The woman considers the plan, knowing Phantom will need items for the next main quest. An info window explains fishing, luring players by selling cheap items with hidden tracking talismans. This tactic allows powerful players to track, rob, and even kill unsuspecting newbies. One of the men doubts the plan, certain a veteran like Phantom would know every talisman in the game. But the woman leans forward excitedly, convinced he might just fall for it. She gushes about his daring nature, certain he'd buy a cheap item and they can invite him to their guild. Her thoughts race, wondering what amazing person he is in real life and hoping he'll join them. Back in the throne room, the subordinate is shocked to see Randolph has 230 points from his class alone. Elsewhere, the player Massacre realizes he won't be using the auction hall for a while. He grips a fallen enemy's hair, vowing to rise in the ranks by killing anyone above him. Meanwhile, Randolph receives a notification for being the first to perfectly clear the sanctuary, earning a teleport book. Riding on Dramoot's back, he comments on the comfortable ride, planning his escape. A system window suddenly appears, announcing that he has leveled up. He checks his status, now level 3, but realizes his talents require 10 times the normal experience. With a grin, he shifts his focus to the powerful items he received from the main quest. He stretches, thinking about the 2 extremely rare items he now possesses. One of them is the Shadow Cloak, which grants the wearer complete invisibility. Suddenly, Dramoot's glowing red eye snaps open, sensing a new threat. A squad of cloaked assassins moves with supernatural speed through the sanctuary. The serpent warns its master that intruders have been detected. Isabella immediately identifies them as the Queen's deadly pursuit squad. She asks for his plan, warning that the squad will be a formidable force. Randolph dons his new cloak, considering their options as Isabella voices her doubts. He smirks, asking why they would fight when Dramet is the one who has to. Carrying Isabella, he orders the massive serpent to hold off their pursuers. The terrified guardian sweats bullets as Randolph commands it to do its job. As the soldiers panic at the sight of Dramet, Randolph and Isabella make their escape. He assures her it's just an advance unit, and they'll be fine since the Queen isn't there. Randolph knows they must escape quickly before the main force arrives and surrounds them. He explains Dramet is bound to the sanctuary, so only they can flee. Their only way out is a warp gate, but he knows there's a catch. They arrive at the massive gate, which requires a long time to activate. Isabella looks on with nervous anticipation, knowing this is their only chance. He explains that once they pass the gate, they'll finally be out of the desert. But when Isabella asks how long it will take, he reveals it's about half a day. He knows Dramet is buying them time, but the Queen's pursuit squad will eventually find them. He tells her he must communicate with the star, a cover for his real plan to log out. Isabella looks at him with uncertain eyes, asking if she can truly trust him. She stands guard over him, vowing to protect him while he's vulnerable. A system window confirms his logout is complete as he awakens in his bed. He sits up, still feeling the disorienting sensation of returning to his real body. He immediately grabs his phone to check the status of the real world. With no disaster warnings, he realizes the monsters haven't appeared yet. A status window confirms the worlds are still merging and more monsters are coming. Suddenly, he gets a call from Kim Seo-yeon, his ex-girlfriend. A flashback shows Seo-yeon on the phone, arguing with him about money. In the memory, she coldly refuses his request to talk things over in person. She abruptly ends the call, telling him she's meeting someone else. Back in the present, Seo-yeon sits in a cafe, glaring at her phone and calling him an annoying jerk. She reflects on their past, thinking that even though he was pathetic, she should have held on. She corrects herself, admitting she wouldn't have left if he had more money before someone calls her name. She's shocked to see Hyun-myung has arrived, looking completely different than she remembers. He coldly asks what she wants, telling her he needs to leave soon. She scoffs at his newfound pride, thinking some things never change. With a smile, she says she always liked how he'd come running whenever she called. She claims to have regretted their breakup, asking if he ever missed her. He ignores her, annoyed that she called him out but wouldn't even buy him a drink. Fed up, he tells her he's leaving, much to her complete shock. She desperately grabs him, asking if this is because of how she treated him in the past. He coldly asks if her new boyfriend knows about this meeting, calling her out for her social media posts. Turning his back, he walks away as she begs him to listen. He feels strangely calm and gets a level-up notification, realizing his game character's growth affects his real body. His thoughts are interrupted by a man screaming at a woman on the street. The man grabs the woman, threatening her with a box cutter as a crowd watches. Enraged, he screams that he'll kill her for looking down on him. But his hand is suddenly stopped, the blade hovering just inches from her face. The terrified woman looks up, wondering who just saved her. It's Hyun-myung, who has caught the attacker's wrist and tells him that's enough. The man struggles in his grip, demanding to be let go. With a powerful twist, Hyun-myung bends the man's wrist, who screams that it's about to snap. He realizes his real body has changed, feeling a strength he never had before. He shoves the attacker to the ground and turns to the woman, asking if she's okay. She looks at him with tearful gratitude, saying she doesn't know how to thank him for saving her life. The woman he saved notices him staring and asks why he's looking at her like that. He suddenly recognizes her as the woman who tried to save the little girl during the monster attack. He quickly dismisses it, saying she just resembled someone he knew, and turns to leave. But the attacker gets up, screaming for him to die as he lunges with the box cutter. With a swift, fluid motion, Hyun-myung easily sidesteps the clumsy attack. He brings his fist down hard, knocking the man out cold in a single brutal blow. The woman can only stare in awe at his incredible display of power. Hyun-myung crouches over the unconscious man, his expression unreadable. Suddenly, 2 police officers arrive and tell him he needs to come to the station. The woman defends him, but the police insist his actions were still an act of violence. Annoyed, Hyun-myung says he doesn't have time for this, as the woman looks on worriedly. The officer stubbornly refuses to bend the rules, questioning who would take responsibility for him. The woman pulls out her ID, introducing herself as Kim Hana, a reporter for a major network. The officers freeze, realizing they're dealing with a reporter who could make this a public issue. They recognize her as the famous reporter who saved a child during the monster invasion. The lead officer reluctantly agrees to let her, the complainant, accompany them instead. After the situation is resolved, she sincerely thanks Hyun Myung for everything he did. She hands him her card, revealing she's a reporter dedicated to covering Dimension Warriors. She explains it's the name given to the heroes who fought back when the monsters invaded. He realizes the public calls players Dimension Warriors, finding it more believable than a game turning real. As the reporter asks for his card, his ex-girlfriend Seo-yeon rushes toward them. She grabs his arm in feigned concern, prompting the reporter to ask if she's his girlfriend. He yanks his arm away, coldly denying he even knows her. The reporter asks for his number instead, leaving Seo-yeon stunned and hurt. She saves his contact, learning his name is Park Hyun Myung. Promising to treat him to dinner, the reporter happily waves goodbye. Seo-yeon confronts him, demanding to know how he could ignore her like that. She seethes with rage, screaming that he's just a pathetic nobody. Meanwhile, the reporter, Kim Hana, walks away while checking her phone. She receives a call from her boss, who gives her a new assignment. Her next task is to conduct an interview with a person named Gracia. She's shocked to learn it's the legendary hero who saved America. Her boss reveals Gracia specifically requested her and is coming to Korea. Back in Pangenia, Isabella stands over the bodies of the assassins she just slaughtered. But another, larger group of the Queen's soldiers has already arrived to replace them. Their leader demands she surrender Randolph and return to the Queen. Without waiting for a reply, the soldiers charge, screaming to kill the traitor. Isabella prepares for battle, standing guard over the meditating Randolph. Suddenly, the warp gate behind them erupts with brilliant cosmic energy. The soldiers freeze in shock as the portal activates, realizing they're out of time. Randolph reappears, telling Isabella she held on well while he was gone. With a smug grin, he confirms his communication with the stars is complete. The enemy commander screams at his soldiers to execute the traitor immediately. As his hand glows with golden light, Randolph vows to keep his promise to her. He clenches his fist, unleashing a torrent of brilliant star energy. A system window announces he's used Star Pierce, consuming all his energy for a 41-second burst. The powerful beam of light tears through the soldiers, who scream in agony. Standing amidst the golden light, he declares this is their moment of liberation. Isabella stares in awe, finally witnessing the true power of the Star-Bearer. He offers her one last chance to return to the Queen, promising not to stop her. With wide, determined eyes, Isabella firmly refuses to leave his side. She steps into the warp gate, vowing to stay with him as her curse is finally lifted. They arrive in a magnificent city of gold, welcomed by a system message to Arcana. A pop-up warns that Arcana is a city of extreme materialism, ruled by wealth. Randolph explains that in this city, gold is everything, and their first priority is to get funds. Isabella proudly presents a bag of 300 gold coins, thinking they're set. Her confidence shatters as he tells her that's barely enough for one night. He explains that in the desert, that much gold could buy 10 slaves. But here, a single loaf of bread costs 50 gold, leaving Isabella speechless. Randolph smirks, telling her not to worry because there's money lying all over the place. He points up at a massive, brightly lit casino. Isabella looks on, completely bewildered by his plan. He stands confidently before the grand entrance, a plan already in motion. With a confident smirk, he tells her not to worry, claiming he's rather lucky.